Question. Can you set the record straight when it comes to the Politico interview? I just want to get to your side of the story. Do you believe that Trump and Obama are the same, just different when it comes to their polishedness? We understand that you refute this Politico story. Could you just set the record straight so we get your side of it? Do you think that President Obama is the same as President Trump?
Absolutely not. That is silly to even think and equate the two. One is human, the other is...
Is it true that you just think that he's more polished than Trump?
This week, House Democrats struggled over how to deal with comments about support for Israel made by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. The controversy tested Democrats' unity and exposed divisions between the party's older and younger lawmakers. Joining us now, California Congresswoman Katie Hill, a freshman liaison to House Democratic leaders. Congresswoman, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. House Democrats, as I say, spent much of last week arguing about Omar's comments about why people support Israel and finally passing a resolution condemning not only anti-Semitism, but all forms of hate. And here was President Trump's reaction.
I thought yesterday's vote by the House was disgraceful because the Democrats have become an anti-Israel party. They've become an anti-Jewish party.
Does the president have a point here, given the fact that the whole debate was about Omar's comments that seemed to question why some Americans support Israel and was viewed by some of your colleagues as anti-Semitic, and yet the resolution that was finally passed doesn't even mention her?
No, I don't think that there's any validity to what he's saying. First of all, it was a completely bipartisan resolution. All but 23 members of Congress, all the 23 that voted against it were all Republican. It was completely supported. So it was something that, if you're going to call out something that's, bigoted, whether it's anti-Semitic or anything else, then we should say that all of this is unacceptable, and that's what we did. And that was really what the debate was about. Was if we're going to condemn one sort of behavior, then why should we isolate it to one group? We should condemn all forms.
You say that I should say that you come from a purple district in California, and for 40 of the last 50 years has been represented by Republicans. So this is a very swing district. You say that you came to Washington not to engage in partisan bickering, but to get things done. But I want to look briefly, and we'll move on, at Congresswoman Omar and the degree to which she has distracted Democrats. First, she said this about congressional support for Israel. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. And she later questioned why it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country. Now she's gone after Barack Obama, saying President Trump's policies are bad, but many of the people who came before him also had really bad policies. They were just more polished than he was. I know that Democrats have passed some bills in the time you've been here. You passed a major election reform bill this week. Last week you passed a gun control bill. But you got to admit that you're spending, it's not just the media, you guys are spending a lot of time having to deal with Congresswoman Omar and Tlaib and Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, I think that we really want to stay focused on our agenda. There's always going to be distractions. It's 435 people who are really their own boss. They're able to say whatever they want. In the world of social media, it's something where you can't control people's speech. Each person has their own priorities and their own opinions, and we have elected a lot of strong-willed and very opinionated people. So I think what we have to figure out how to do is to say, okay, this isn't the views of everybody in Congress. These are not the priorities of the entire caucus. But how do we maintain focus on our agenda as a whole and, demonstrate that this is not indicative of what our agenda is completely.
All right. You are a vice chair of the House Oversight Committee, and here's what the chairman, Elijah Cummings, said at the start of the Cohen hearing week before last.
I said to Mr. Cohen that if he came in here and lied, I would nail him to the cross. Didn't I? Did I tell you that?
Yes, you did more than once.
In that hearing, Michael Cohen made this categorical statement.
I have never asked for, nor would I accept, a pardon from President Trump.
But now, Cohen's lawyer, Lanny Davis, says this. He, Cohen, directed his attorney, his prior attorney, to explore possibilities of a pardon at one point with Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani, as well as other lawyers advising President Trump. Question, did Michael Cohen lie to your committee, and do you support referring Cohen to the Justice Department for committing perjury?
So I don't know if he lied or not. I think that this is Mr. Cummings, Chairman Cummings, is incredibly deliberate. I know that he's reviewing the entire testimony, all the transcripts, with Mr. Jordan, who is also is going to make sure that that we get to the bottom of this to whatever extent is possible.
How can you say you're not sure whether he lied? He said, I never asked for a pardon, and his lawyer says he directed his lawyer to talk about a pardon.
Yeah, I don't know how that went down exactly. I don't know if Lanny Davis heard something. Look. Probably, yeah. I would imagine that in the panic that was going on when you're about to go down, right? That you're going to say like, yeah, we'll figure out whatever you can do. So probably, and I imagine that Chairman Cummings will end up referring him. That's just my guess. When Chairman Cummings says something like, I'm going to nail you to the cross, he means it. I mean, I've seen him in action, and he is not going to let this go. So, yeah.
The House Judiciary Committee, not your committee, the Judiciary Committee sent document requests last week to 81 people and entities asking for information about everything from hush money payments to potential insurance fraud. As someone who says that you didn't come to Washington for partisan bickering, as I just pointed out, one, is this a fishing expedition when you're sending information about all these things to 81 different people and entities? And again, aren't you almost ensuring that the next year, 2 years are going to be involved with these hearings that don't actually, I mean, I understand oversight, but that don't get things done for the American people?
Well, I think that we're capable of working on many things at once. The issue is that for 2 years, Congress didn't perform oversight of the executive branch, and we're constitutionally mandated to do so. So the Republicans, while they were in charge, simply just didn't do it, and despite the fact that we saw so many red flags of different crimes that could have been committed, different issues that we really needed to be providing oversight on, and they just simply pushed it under the rug. They didn't do any kind of investigations, whereas under the Obama administration, for the IRS investigation, 1.3 million documents were provided. 1.3 million, and that was under Republican request, and the White House, they cooperated. So I think it's really disingenuous to say, oh, 81 were requested, and this is some big deal. This is just total partisanship. It's not true. It's that we have to make up for 2 years of a lack of investigation and a lack of oversight.
As you sit here right now, do you feel that you have seen hard evidence that Donald Trump, either in the campaign or as president, committed a crime, and if so, a crime that rises to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors for impeachment?
I believe that I have seen enough that makes me feel like we need to continue down this path. I don't feel like there is enough of I feel like impeachment is as much of a political process as it is anything else. And I think that we have to make sure that we're providing all of the information, airing it all out so that the public can feel with as much certainty as members of Congress that's the case and that we need to continue down this path. So I really think that this is about getting to the truth, about showing it to the American people, and then we go from there. But at the end of the day, if people, the citizens of the United States, don't believe that it has risen to that level, then we can't go anywhere. So really it's about exposing the truth, and it's about getting to the bottom of this, and it's about asking the questions of, is this the kind of government, is this the kind of leadership that we want to see? Is this okay? Is this the kind of state that we want to leave our democracy in to our children? And right now, I just don't believe that it is. That's why I ran for Congress. That's why so many of my colleagues ran for Congress. And I frankly think that's why we were elected.
Finally, I've got about a minute left. In case you haven't noticed, you're on Fox News.
I am.
Right here. As you well know, this week, the DNC chair, Tom Perez, announced that they are not going to give any of the 12 scheduled Democratic primary debates over the next year to Fox News. What do you think of that decision?
Well, I think it's the Democratic primary, and I think we know that There are basically no Democrats who watch Fox News, so to me that's pretty fair.
That's not true, actually.
Well,
I mean, there are a lot of Democrats who watch Fox News and a lot of independents who watch Fox
Certainly
News.
independents, yes, but mostly it's become more and more partisan, and that's unfortunate. I'm here because I do represent a purple district, and it's turning out that more and more of my clothes are purple. I don't know what's happening with that, but I think that there is not a feeling right now that there's a lack of bias, and I'm hoping that we can change that. I feel like you're treating me without bias, and I appreciate that. And I think that this is something that we have to change. You know, I personally don't think it helps when we're saying we're not going to have any of the debates on Fox News. I don't know how much of that was driven by the candidates, how much of it was driven by the party. You know, I'd like to see all of that change. I want to see the media become as unbiased as possible, but, you know, I don't know that we're in that state right now, which is really unfortunate.
Congresswoman Hill, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in today. Please come back.
Absolutely.
You're always welcome on Fox News.
I will come back.
Good.